Thank you so much for taking the time to do the interview.
Well, no problem.
I just want to say I remember you guys from way back when, and you were killer. You were totally killer. Anyway, to start with, Andro, I mean, let's take you way back into the virtual time machine of rock, and back to 1974,
Right.
if I may, when Witchfynde was formed in Derbyshire, I believe.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, mainly originally in Derby.
Derby.
Yeah. Gray and all the others, apart from Montallo, lived in Derby. They all went to school together. And then they were in a band called Mangalia. And they then changed the name to Witchfynde when they got Montallo in. And it was originally from Witchfynde General, the film.
Yeah.
But they wanted to be a little bit different, not call it Witchfynde, but call it Witchfynde, Fynde. And yeah, so they all went to, in actual fact, they went to a school, Ecclesbourne School in Duffield, in the village I now live in. Because they all lived in Allistry in that area. There was Butch Blower, Gray Scoresby, and Neil Harvey, who unfortunately is no longer with us. And then the Derbyshire bit itself then came from Montallo, who lived in near Alfreton in Somercotes. And then when we got Steve Bridges in, he's from Belper. So that's a few miles to the north of me. So yeah, we're all from Derby or Derbyshire.
What are your things that stick in your mind most, your memories from back then?
Well, I first got to know them because we all used to go in the same pub, the Seven Stars in Derby, and they wanted Gray and Rich Peach, who was the sound man. They wanted a third person to share a house that they were renting. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And one thing led to another. I ended up as a roadie. So I then roadied and lights and sort of humping everything about. And it came about that Rich Butch Blower, the bass player, he had a car crash and he was unable to play anymore. So they got a guy in, an older guy, a much older guy who'd been in pro, but he let them down. And we had a gig on the Saturday, and on Friday night, he said, well, you can play bass. I said, yeah. Do you know the stuff? And it was all covers at that time. Rock the Nation, Montrose, and various UFO, you name it, Black Sabbath, of course. And so I learnt all these songs because Gray could play guitar, and we just sat in the dining room and just worked out all the notes and everything. I learnt it on the Friday, played on the Saturday, and that was the start of me playing. It was just as simple as that.
Seat of your pants stuff.
Yeah.
What made you pick up the bass?
Oh, originally I tried guitar. I mean, obviously I was in with, the Beatles and Stones and the Kinks, and I thought, well, I like the Kinks because they were a bit heavier at the time in the 60s. Then my cousin got me onto all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff like Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart and Grateful Dead, you name it, he was into it. And I started playing guitar. I got a cheap one out of a catalogue and just played along. Didn't take any lessons. I just sort of ended up playing sort of, I like Frank Zappa's solos, and then play something that went with it rather than just play chords and everything. Then I picked up a bass for a friend of mine from a local shop, and before I took it to her, I thought, well, I like the sound of this. It was the wrong way around because I'm left-handed, so it was a right-handed bass, but it made a nice sound. But I was already aware of people like Jack Bruce, and then I heard Mel from Grand Funk Railroad, and the live album, bought that, and that sort of like, I love that sound, and that was really the catalyst that sort of started me wanting to. So I swapped it, actually got the bass from Butch, the original Witchfynde. I swapped it for my guitar because he wanted to learn it before he had his accident, unfortunately. So we then went. So it was an old Wem Sapphire bass. I flipped it upside down and did a few mods to it so I could play it left-handed with the strings the right way around. And one thing just led to another, saying eventually we did do a couple of bands before that. I was in a band, I think it was one gig we had supporting Witchfynde at a local gig called Albatross, and which was a load of roadies and ex-members of various Derby bands. And then we formed because we live in this place called a street called Home Street, and Gray and I and another turned up at the house, and we sort of formed the Home Street Jug Band, and we sort of played things like Lindisfarne and all sorts of folky rock stuff. And so I learned to play all that, and so yeah, pretty well self-taught and picked things up as I went. I'm going to say it was then, from then, the first singer, Neil, he left under, we always sacked him, I'll tell the truth. And of course, we haven't got anybody else. So I said, well, Steve sings because he'd been singing in the Home Street Jug Band. We know he can sing. So he agreed to do it, and we did a load of local sort of covers by these 3 half-hour spells at clubs and whatever. Some were great, some weren't. We played up a lot in North Derbyshire in the coal fields at the working men's clubs and the miners' welfares. We played one called Oxcroft Miners' Welfare, and we were playing till 2 o'clock in the morning, as long as we could carry on playing Black Sabbath and Status Quo. And it was ridiculous. We just couldn't get off the stage. But yeah, there were a few funny things happened. Like we played a club in Yardley, and it come to the end of the night, and this little old lady wandered over, and she just said, you're never going to get anywhere if you don't play the last waltz. And that became sort of a thing that we said, that's why we're not getting anywhere, because we never played the last waltz. But yeah, that was 1975. And then we over the summer we started writing our own material, which became the Lost Tapes, 5 songs, which we integrated into the set. We played a lot of different places locally then, and we started to build a following. And then in the December of 75, we went into a studio in Leicester and recorded those 5 songs: Grimoire, Halfway, Pastiche, Slow Down, and Madanonomy, is how you pronounce it. And we then presented them to every record company in London. We walked around the whole of London. We got some, and we're totally and utterly rejected by everybody. It was so. We never played those songs again, ever. As soon as we got rejected, that was it. They'd all gone.
You took it hard.
Yeah, but we carried on, and we wrote more stuff. Within a few, within the start of 1976, we'd done Unto the Age of the Ages and Tetelestai, which, and they were both on the album. We recorded for the Give 'Em Hell album. Unfortunately, Tetelestai wasn't on the original one because we recorded too much. But that's another story, way on the other end of it. But yeah, so that's basically the sort of how we got together as what we're now known as the original sort of lineup, because it's the original lineup that actually wrote their own material.
Yeah, I mean, it's the 40th. I mean, you've celebrated the 40th anniversary, which I find is mind-blowing, of Give 'Em Hell. And it still sounds as fresh today as it did back then. It has all those hallmarks of what we now call traditional heavy metal, and was later sort of labelled New Album. How did you feel about that New Album badge that was stamped on everybody?
Well, we felt it helped in one way, but we were never the sort of epitome of new wave of British heavy metal in the way of Iron Maiden, Saxon, and all those, because like Quartz and Judas Priest, we've been going, already been going sort of 6 years before, it's 1980. And some of those songs, as I say, were written in 1976. So yeah, it was weird because everybody that had two guitars, drums, a singer seemed to be, and they were loud and heavy-ish, because they were just swept up into the same thing. It helped in several ways, but we always felt that we had a core of the heavier stuff with Black Sabbath, but we also like the more progressive stuff like Rush, which is like you can see in Leaving the Deer for a start. And actually somebody quoted and said that Leaving the Deer is the song that Rush wished they'd written, which I thought was a nice compliment.
Absolutely.
But we've never really considered ourselves to be heavy metal. We always sort of heavy rock rather than metal. But yeah, it helped in 1980. It got us, we got a record contract. We'll talk about that later. And things were beginning to happen, but unfortunately, it didn't continue.
No, I was going to say, I mean, you got airplay on the Friday Rock Show, which everybody still remembers so damn well. And if you were on there, you were it, basically, weren't you? But remember, on the second LP, Stage Fright, that was more experimental, wasn't it? So maybe your sort of prog and progressive and Lindisfarne folk stuff was wanting to come out. But what happened? Why did it all just go wrong?
Well, we'd squabbled a couple of times. It began to be sort of a few cracks in '79, but we papered over them and we did the album. I think the catalyst was signing with Rondelay Records, because Steve and I didn't have much say in it. The other two went and saw them while we were at work. And then basically they offered it straight away because we actually, half of Give 'Em Hell album we paid for. It was a demo. And all Rondelay did was do it, pay for another weekend session, a 3-day session to finish it off, because we did the whole album in 6 days. And I wasn't happy at signing it, because they were that obsessed with signing that they didn't even go and say, oh, let's take this to a solicitor. We basically signed not just a record contract at 9% and 90% of the gross, but we signed them for management. We signed to them with the same stupid amount of royalties on publishing. So they got us.
They stitched you.
Yeah. That rankled. Anyway, we got the album out. They did some, as you know, a lot of promotion for Give 'Em Hell. This single came out just before Christmas '79. The album came out February. Then we got the tour with Def Leppard, and within 3 days of that tour starting, then EMI wanted to sign us. But Rondelay wanted that much money to buy us out the 1 year contract that was already nearly half over, that they walked away. By the end of that tour, in the 1st of March, every major label in the UK had done the same, walked away. At that point, I knew Witchfynde were finished.
Yeah.
We then we signed to do 2 albums. So we're still promoting the first one because it's only come out in February. I mean, the contract was signed in September. We've now got to rush a second one out. And by now the cracks. Then I had a car crash. And unlike, I rolled a car into a field similar to, drummer from Def Leppard.
Yeah,
but I survived out of it with just a broken elbow, torn muscle in my leg, and glass cuts. It rolled 3.5 times in the field. They were banging on my door, and I couldn't get out of bed. I literally couldn't get down the stairs because I'd torn the thigh muscle in my leg. I managed to shuffle up there on one leg, but I wasn't going downstairs to open the door. And then I think that's when they got Pete Sergi in to cover. And things then got worse, and we started doing the album. I did the bass to stage fright, and one or two other, a couple of other tracks, and then also Won't Be Seen Dead in Heaven, and what was the other one? In the Stars. That's it. And actually, we had a recording of those 3 songs, In the Stars, Wake Up Screaming, the second version, and Won't Be Seen Dead in Heaven. And I actually play bass on those 3 tracks, but there's nowhere on the album does it show it.
Oh God.
So when I found out, of course, and I hated that Won't Be Seen Dead in Heaven. I really did not like. I remember playing it at the Granary in Bristol and going, I didn't sign up for this. I really didn't sign. It was. I thought it's too poppy. It's not us. This is going the wrong way. Montale made a comment while we were on tour saying, I think we should be the next Rainbow.
And I'm thinking, your style?
No, we had a style. We had a unique style. It's just Witchfynde, which is what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
And so things started to deteriorate quite rapidly. And we recorded those 3 songs in June. In July, we played right at the start of July. We played at Blackpool, and then the last gig, funnily enough, was Wolverhampton. And
we are the Death Nail and Mouse bands.
And we sort of we did Stage Fright as a sound check, and I did the Les Dawson thing. I played it all wrong, the wrong notes. I played the right notes, but not necessarily the right order. And I think that finally put the nail in it, because after the gig, the manager stroke record label guy came in and said, it's not working. I said, no, it's not working, but I'm not walking away. You've got me under contract. If you want me to go, tell me. I'm quite happy. I'll leave. He says, right, well, yeah, I think it's best if you go. I said, right, get me gear, and I'll put it in the back of the car off, and that'll be it. Bye. But then, as I say, I found out what Stage Fright came out. The daft thing is they did the single In the Stars and Wake Up Screaming with a picture of Pete Sergi on the front, and he didn't play a note on either side of it. And obviously it rankled at the time.
Of course.
So I ended up getting a lawyer. One, I wanted proof that I was the contract was null and void, and I wasn't going to incur any debt, because I knew they got debt. Personally, I haven't really got any debt. The only thing they bought was a Fender Jazz bass and got stolen, so I'm not paying for something I haven't got. Anyway, so the rest of the gear was all mine. I owned, and they came back and said, "Yeah, you're relinquish. You're out of your contract. The new guy's taking your place. That's fine." And they sent a copy of the single and the album. Then I find out that there was not only I wasn't even put on the album that I played on 3 tracks, but there's a derogatory piece in one of the songs about me, which was totally untrue, and there's also a nasty, snidey little remark in the sleeve notes as well. So I took out that advice and went as far as a barrister. And he says, "You've got a fantastic case for getting this, of suing both of them, but you can't get blood out of a stone. Neither the record company or Witchfynde have got any money." And so it transpired in 1981. Apparently, they owed Witchfynde owed Rondelay £25,000.
Ouch.
And that's the reason why they went into sort of hiding for a year, because there's a gap, isn't there, from 80 to 83, I think, before they actually recorded anything else. And then 84 with the last album, Lords of Sin. And that's the reason for that, because in the meantime, Rondelay went bust, so they didn't owe him any money. But the problem being is, from 1980, when The Give 'Em Hell came out, to the year 2000, none of us got any money from the albums whatsoever. We never got paid a penny. So and of course, I was in a bit of a state. I never played any Witchfynde songs, even listened to them for 20 years.
It was a bad memory for you, though, wasn't it? It was still sore.
It was very sore. But I went and informed Malleus and with my then girlfriend Shaz and now wife, and we kept going with that. Rather, 1 or 2 different lineups, didn't get anywhere because we couldn't get a stable lineup with people locally. We just ended up with 4 songs that we managed to record in 1984 before calling it quits. At that point, I apart from I did helped out our last guitarist with Malleus with a project he got for a while, but then I went out the business until 2006, which and it eats into you. It really does. You see, you watch TV, you watch bands, and you see all the bands that you were around with all that time. Saxon, who you talked to, Iron Maiden, you played with, and Def Leppard, and they're all sort of doing very well, thank you. And I'm having to go to work 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So it did sort of rankle a bit. But then in 2006, I was working in a food factory in Burton-on-Trent. And we had a temp electrician come in, and we got talking, and he said, "Oh, I've got my own little studio. I do overdubs and vocal parts and stuff." And I said, "Oh yeah, I used to be in a band." Next day, he brings all this stuff in, and it's all Witchfynde. And then I find out that we'd influenced Metallica and Bauhaus and all these other bands.
Did, yes.
And I'm thinking, oh, it couldn't have been that bad then. But even then, it was like, oh yeah, we did that. But then I got a band together with Shaz again. We called it ZXY, because I didn't want to call it Malleus at the time. So I was experimenting with this, with my bass as a lead instrument. We did a little mini tour in 2014. Excuse me. Well, unfortunately, after that, Shaz got breast cancer. So it got a bit intermittent after that. But she did do more gigs when probably she shouldn't have done. But we ended up supporting Hawk Lords in Nottingham in the November of that year. Then we got, but we seemed to go through drummers. We didn't kill them like Spinal Tap, but we just seemed to go through them.
That's good to hear.
Yeah. And one of which in 2016, we got a gig for the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, which she has written a song called Anthem for the Damned, which is all about that. She wrote it after Sophie's death. It's, about we all have the right to be who we are, in what shape you are. It doesn't really matter. We should all be free to be who we want to be. So it meant something. He quit at 8:30 in the morning of the gig.
Oh.
And I managed to get a Depp drummer by midday from Grantham. Unbeknown to me, he's the nephew of one of the old Witchfynde roadies. And it's just weird how things happen. And he was really good. He couldn't commit to it full time, but unfortunately, as things happened, didn't really matter anyway, because I got diagnosed with myeloma myself in February 2017. So everything again got put on hold. And eventually we got Malleus back up and running, and with a singer called Graham, who lives in Tunbridge Wells, believe it or not. And a drummer lives in Canterbury. And we did the album Your Nightmare Calls, recorded it in 2018 and brought it out in 2019, because we're having to do everything remotely. He'd sort of mix it for me. And I go, no, I want this up a bit, want doing a bit, that. And then he master it. And then we go, yeah, can you just tweak it a little bit? So it took about a year after we actually recorded, because I can record the guitar parts here. And so it came out 2019. We did Mere Fest in Slough and brought it out then, basically. But at that time, people at the Mere Fest Festival, which we did too, they're going, oh, you should be doing your Witchfynde. It's your heritage. Why aren't you doing a Witchfynde band? So anyway, I got talking with a few people who were there from other bands, and there was a band called Rampant, and I ended up forming that with the singer, drummer, and lead guitarist, Shaz and me. And we did the British Steel Festival in France in October 2019. Then, of course, then COVID hit.
Yeah.
We managed to get, during the summer, we managed to get some studio time to get drums for the 40th anniversary Give 'Em Hell remake. So we did this, the same two songs, just with different people. And we luckily just managed to get in between all the lockdowns and everything. And again, we could do the guitars at home. So it wasn't too hard to do that. But it's been hit and miss again since then. It got to the point where it was getting a little bit too much to carry on with that lineup, because they all lived in sort of Hertfordshire, Essex and everything. We were traveling all the way down to Baldock every week to rehearse. And it was, sometimes at night it'd be 3.5 hours, because you couldn't get up the M1 or something, or the A1 was short, and we had to go across country, and it was a nightmare. So we got rid of that lineup. We got, and then we've been endeavouring to get a new lineup. We've got a brilliant singer, Dave Murray, the new singer. Is the nearest I think I could ever get to Steve's vocal range. Fantastic. So it's perfect fit. We've struggled a bit with guitarists, but now we've got Tracy from Overdrive and the other Witchfynde, which is unfortunately no longer. Through things I can't really, it's up to them to say why. That's fine. I know Luther Belts has retired for one. I think all there's going to be is a Montalo, a solo album from that side. So he's come over to me, and so we did that. Was the first gig in Wolverhampton, which was mainly because the Purity had asked me to do it. I had to cancel it once because we hadn't got a guitarist at the time. And the drummer was ill, and So now we've got Tracy in, and we've got a young drummer from Grantham. He's for his age, is absolutely brilliant. And we go from here. The next thing we're going to be doing is recording a single of 2 songs that are only on that Life Sacrifice album. We were never recorded in a studio, called Why Don't You and Twilight Lady. Now, everybody loves them. Plus, I found out on YouTube, there was somebody had posted a video of an entire Witchfynde gig at what we consider our home gig in Brimington in Chesterfield.
Oh.
And when I listened to it, I thought, I don't remember that song. Hang on a minute, I wrote the words for that. And there's 4 songs that neither me or Steve can remember at all, even doing. And this is only 78. I mean, it's only the year before we did Give 'Em Hell. So there's those 4 tracks. There's Valkyrian Ride that's only ever been done as a demo. There's Grimoire off the Lost Tapes I'd like to do and modernise it. So we've got a full album, and that is the next project after this.
Look forward to hearing that.
So you've got all those old songs that's never really been dealt with properly. There's, and then when we've got, between us, I think we've got enough probably for about 4 or 5 more albums. But I intend doing this till I can't do it anymore, basically.
Good. I'm glad to hear it.
I've not, I've been through cancer, I've come out the other side of that. I'm 4 inches shorter than I used to be, thanks to that, because I jumped off a wall not knowing I got the equivalent of osteoporosis, and I've got 5 compression fractures in my back. It hurts. I can manage an hour. Rehearsals can be a bit dodgy, but take painkillers and carry on. So I want to do it, that's all. I mean, I'm as hungry as I was back in 1980, or probably more than 1980, back in 70s, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I saw today there was, with Anthony Bray from Venom, Abaddon. He did an interview, and he was saying, they were asking him, what about punk and everything. But yeah, there is quite a few New Woburn bands that were punk influenced, even Maiden, but we weren't, because we were from before then. It was a totally different. As I say, it is unique. I would say that, and everywhere we go, people. I mean, it's like when I started doing it again, I had a guy called Danny Mackie from the band Belladonna from Italy. And he friend requested me, then he messaged me and says, thank you so much for for accepting my friendship. He said, Give 'Em Hell was not only an influence on my musical career, it was an influence on my entire life. And just that one guy, you think, well, yeah, I've achieved something, might be this, what we used to think 4 lads from Derbyshire, but, we've done something. And it's just phenomenal. I've got a band now called Sabbath Wolf, who are on the same roster as we are, with Pure Power Dockside Management. And they are heavily into Witchfynde, but they're more doomy. They're like a doom, more doomy Sabbath than Sabbath sort of thing, and they're really good. And so he sent me a T-shirt, and I've got a sticker on one of my basses and promote them. And yeah, we played with them at Wolves, and then the band called Slander. Well, apparently the guitarist again, Witchfynde, with a band that started him at 13. He bought the album and started him playing guitar. So we get on like a house on fire. So there will be no load more gigs around the country with the same lineup.
Oh, good.
So
please do. I was gutted that we couldn't do Wolves. We just had our flu and COVID boosters and knocked us both sideways. Do come back up this way again so we can catch you. Well,
I was talking to Andy, the manager, yesterday, and he's saying he's talking to the promoter for the Gifford. So for next year, because the idea is now let's get this album and single done. Forget December, January, February, and in March we start out again, and we intended to try and get at least 4 to 6, if not 8 gigs a month around the country. Where between you and me, we've got a festival for next December as well.
Fantastic.
In Belgium. And we've got another 2. I think we're on at Cornwall ROX. And I know there's another one in Hinckley that Andy's sorting out, and we'll be on there. But also we've got gigs coming up with Saracen as well, which again, they aren't your normal New Wobben band.
No, I mean they're heading towards a praying mantis sort of side.
And they and they're all local lads to us as well. I mean, Tris, the drummer, lives in Derby. I think keyboard player lives in Burton, and the others live in Baslow, Derbyshire, Chesterfield. So we're all local, and we're going to be doing a gig at the Real Time Live in Chesterfield with us 2 together. They want to do gigs with us as well. So yeah, I think next year we're going to be quite busy.
Good.
Yeah, it does make you hungry for it. As I said, when we first got this management, because unfortunately the last one was useless. And I said, look, I want to start to get back to where I was in 1980 and then take it as far as I can.
Yeah.
While I can. Because I'm not I'm not 20 anymore, but I can still keep going. But so yeah, it's hopefully all go.
And you'll inspire many, many more metal bands, I'm very sure, Andrew.
Yeah, hopefully.
But, you will. There's no hopefully about it. Good people love good music, and Witchfynde certainly produce that. Yeah.
But
is there anything you'd like to say before I let you go, Andrew, to your many, many fans out there?
No, I don't want to say anything. Yeah. Thank you for the fantastic support that we had. Let's take the first time we ever played in London was at the Music Machine. We were first on. It was I think it was a Thursday. We were first on Iron Maiden second and 1979 and Saxon top of the bill. We thought, we don't know anybody down here. Nobody knows us because we've never played in London before. But we had a load of fans from East Anglia based in Thetford. We came out and all of them were at the front of the stage. Just one great big line of friendly faces. They made all the difference. So yeah, all those fans from back then and anybody we've picked up since and all the people around the world, thank you for, and we have really, really have always appreciated, you coming and spending your money so we can do this and give you a good show.
Thank you so much, Andrew. It's been a real pleasure and an honor speaking to you. A true rock legend.
It's been lovely speaking to you.
You take care of yourself.
And you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.